Okay, greetings everyone and welcome to the video on note-taking. We'll be using a couple different videos in this larger video. Please know that the links to all of the videos are in that note-taking folder in D2L. That folder is located in week 1, in content, week 1, in learning, and then in note-taking. So at any time, if these smaller videos that we're going to watch inside the PowerPoint, if you would like to see them at a bigger screen, or if you'd like to make the volume different for your own taste, then please feel free to exit out of my video. Just note where you are in the video so you can come back and join us. But you can watch those videos using the links in content as well. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is why we're practicing this. This note-taking unit is new, and the reason that I've added it to our course is because, well, this is predominantly an online course this summer. Normally, when we do a note-taking unit in class, we practice all different kinds of note-taking from textbooks, and we will be doing that. We'll get there. But because this is an online class and because I'll be delivering so much of the course content and videos, I thought that it would be a really good idea to begin this semester by teaching you how to take good notes from a video. You're going to have a lot of videos to watch over the next 7 weeks because, again, that's how I'm going to teach you. We have such a limited time to meet every week, and so I'll be doing a lot more modeling of different strategies and just checking in with you during those class times so that, again, most of the course content will be delivered in videos. So that's one of the reasons why I chose to do a video note-taking unit first. Another reason is that Normandale is offering all their fall classes online, so it's important for you to learn how to do this quickly and easily and get lots of practice so that you're off and running in the fall. Okay, so first step is that you're just going to watch the video and listen all the way through. It's important just to kind of get the big picture. What's in the video, what's being talked about. There's some guiding questions you should be asking yourself. Why am I watching this video? What's the purpose of it? How does it connect to the course? Maybe what unit we're in or what chapter we've been reading? And what is the main takeaway that I should be learning from this video? So you should be able to answer all of those questions after you've listened to a video just one time. But it's important for you just to just press play and sit and listen. Pay attention and listen, and that's it. To not have a lot of note-taking constraints on you right away. So that's what we're going to do first. So the video we're going to watch is a short video. It's about 6 minutes. It's called The Science of Neglect. As you're listening to this video, remember your purpose. Why were you assigned to watch this? How does it connect to our course? And what's the main takeaway? What should you be learning from this video? So I'm going to press play now, and I want you just to listen and try to focus on those big picture questions. Okay.
Everyone in a community has a vested interest in everyone else's children because everyone else's children determine the next adult population that makes for a successful society. Built into our biology is the need to have responsive interactions with adults.
Neglect for children is when they don't get what the brain is expecting to get, what the child is expecting to get, what we are biologically prepared and waiting for, which is input from those around us.
It's this back and forth serve and return interaction that literally shapes the architecture of the brain.
Serve and return begins when a child looks at something or observes something, makes an utterance, and that represents the serve. And the return is when the parent notices the child doing these things and responds to the child.
Under conditions where serve and return is broken, you literally are pulling away what is the essential ingredient of the development of human brain architecture.
It was a really compelling series of experiments where they started by videotaping the mother and the baby engaging in cooing and smiling. And then they ask the mother to basically put on a blank face and not respond at all. When a baby is not attended to, that is a sign of danger to the baby biologically. So the stress systems become activated.
In a brain that is constantly bathed in stress hormones, not that's up and down, that comes with normal development, certain key synapses, the connections between nerves, fail to form, and critical regions of the brain.
So neglect both fails to provide the stimulation that's needed to develop the basic architecture, and when it's at a certain level, is one of the most potent activators of the stress biology of a young child. So you get a double whammy.
Science points to 4 categories of this spectrum of neglect. The first category would be what's called occasional inattention, where children experience responsiveness most of the time, but occasionally adults don't respond. There's no harm in that, and in fact, there's probably some benefit.
A child can learn to self-soothe and explore the environment, and all of those opportunities build brain architecture.
The second category, scientists would call chronic understimulation, is where on a regular basis, children have less interaction with the adults around them than is needed for healthy development.
Those children typically, when provided with enriched learning opportunities and more typical levels of serve and return, will show catch-up.
The third category is what science would call severe neglect in a family where not only are there prolonged periods of inattention and lack of responsiveness, but often also associated with not being fed enough, not being bathed enough, not having basic needs met.
Neglect is a huge problem in the U.S. Children are much more likely to be neglected than they are to experience any other kind of maltreatment.
We see the child really being at risk for much more substantial kinds of deficits down the road that don't necessarily get easily fixed or ameliorated. This is where we really need to think about more complicated and often more intensive strategies to help undo those effects.
The fourth category, called severe neglect, generally found in institutional settings, is a result of children living in kind of warehouse type situation in orphanages.
And it doesn't have to even be as extreme as orphanages. It can be experiences that are regretfully occurring in many, many parts of our country.
Often institutional care in this country is under the euphemistic name of transitional care or temporary care or assessment facilities.
If you think about what institutional or residential care would look like for an infant, where there's somebody new coming onto the shift every 8 hours, it really alters the development of the child's brain architecture and other aspects of the child's development.
We have the potential to change children's developmental trajectories.
Interventions can apply to parents, to foster parents or adoptive parents, childcare settings, Head Start settings, and other kinds of settings. And really, what they're about is attuning people to the serve and return process.
Neglecting young children is neglecting the foundations of a healthy next generation. The community pays a huge price later in terms of the problems of the next generation, whether it be educational achievement, economic productivity, good citizenship, the ability to parent the next generation. All of the things that have to do with a healthy, prosperous society.
Okay, so we're going to move on now. And I want you to get out a sheet of paper or open a file in Word or in your Google Drive and spend a couple minutes and think and reflect. Go back to the purpose. Why were you assigned to watch the video? How does it connect to our course? And what's the main takeaway? Just spend a minute or two, pause this video here, and write your answers or type your answers, and then we'll move on. So go ahead and pause here. Okay, so now that you've done that, we're ready to move on and try some note taking. So the next thing that we're going to do is we need to watch the Science of Neglect video again. This time we're going to pause it wherever we need to in order to take notes. I'm going to help you get started here, and in order to do that, I actually have to kind of exit this presentation and get back into where I created it so that I can take some notes. You see I have a sheet of note paper there, and I'm going to take notes during the video. So with that being said, well, actually, we're going to play the video for just a couple minutes, and then when we think that we need to write something important that's down, then we'll take notes. Okay.
Everyone in a community has a vested interest in everyone else's children, because everyone else's children determine the next adult population that makes for a successful society.
All right, I'm going to actually pause it right there because I think what he just said was really important. And so I'm going to try to put that into my own words here. And I am, let's see. Okay. So I'm going to type that, I'm going to back this up. Okay. So everyone should care about everyone else's children, right? Because they are the next adult population. That makes sense, right? Like if we take good care of our children, then they're going to be the adults, and then they'll have received good care, so then they'll be good caretakers, right? That kind of makes sense. It's like this causal thing. I understand that. Okay. All right. So let's keep going.
Everyone in a community has a vested interest in everyone else's children, because everyone else's children determine the next adult population that makes for a successful society. Built into our biology is the need to have responsive interactions with adults.
Neglect for children is when they don't get what the brain is expecting to get, what the child is expecting to get, what we are biologically prepared and waiting for, which is input from those around us.
Okay. So I think that's important too. So when I listen to that, like to me, that sounds important also. So I think that what I want to type in next is this idea that like humans need interaction, and neglect in children is when they don't get this interaction, right? Like that makes sense, right? So I know that humans are really social creatures, right? Like if anything, we learned that during this whole pandemic thing and all the isolation of being socially distant. And so imagine how that's changing the kids that are real young and growing up right now, right? So when they're not getting the kind of interaction that they need. So that seemed really important too. Okay. I'm going to pull the video forward. I notice it restarts every time I get here, so we'll get it up a little forward.
It's this back and forth serve and return interaction that literally
Now that's
shapes the architecture of the brain.
Serve and return sounds
Serve and
important
return
too.
begins when a child looks at something or observes something, makes an utterance, and that represents the serve. And the return is when the parent notices the child doing these things and responds to the child.
Under conditions where serve and return is broken, you literally are pulling away what is the essential ingredient of the development of human brain architecture.
Okay, That's important. We should write that down. So let's go back into our notes. And let's add that in. So that's the idea of serve and return, right? And how it shapes a child's brain, right? And then I think underneath that, what's important is that there's two steps, right? There's serve, and that's where the child does something, right? And they said whether they coo or they point at something or they talk or they do something, right? And then that return piece is where the adult recognizes what the child does, right? And responds. Okay, now I want for just a second to talk about what you see here as far as the hierarchy of information. I want you to notice, and actually I'm going to go back into presentation mode here because then I can grab a pen up here and I can show you that I want you to see how all of this is all over here, all the way over to the left, right? And so those are these really big ideas that we need to understand. But then this right here, you see this is indented and so is that, right? Because defining serve and defining return helps to illustrate this bigger idea of serve and return, right? And so that's why it's indented, because it's supporting. These are minor details that support the major support. So when we take notes, we want to preserve what we call the hierarchy, right? A hierarchy is having the big information way over here on the left, and then having the details moved over here, right? And indented, okay? So it's important that you understand why I just did that. All right, let's get back into the video. They were just about to go over this still face study that we'll take notes on in just a second. Okay, so let's go back into the video.
The mother and the baby engaging in cooing and smiling. And then they ask the mother to basically put on a blank face and not respond at all. When a baby is not attended to, that is a sign of danger to the baby biologically. So the stress systems become activated.
In a brain that is constantly bathed in stress hormones, not that's up and down, that comes with normal development, certain key synapses, the connections between nerves, fail to form, and critical regions of the brain.
So neglect both fails to provide the stimulation that's needed to develop the basic architecture, and when it's at a certain level, is one of the most potent activators of the stress biology of a young child. So you get a double whammy.
All right, and I'm going to stop there, and I want you to notice we're at 2:24. That will be important. You might want to jot that down somewhere, and I'll show you why in just a minute, but that it matters that we stopped there, okay? So I'm going to go back out, and so I can take, want to keep let's not keep them. Okay, so then I'm going to go back into my document because I want to type again, because I want to talk about this still face study, right? So still... Actually, I want that down a little bit so it's separated. So still face, it was a study, right? And so that's the title. And so it studied like the lack of serve and return. Okay. So now I'm going to take some notes on it. So what happened was first mom engaged with baby, right? That's the first thing we saw. And then the second thing that happened, mom ignored the baby. And then let's support that. What happened underneath that time? So when the mom was ignoring the baby, what happened, right? So first, it said that the baby, we're going to indent a little bit more over here. The baby got upset, right? Because it was a biological sign of danger. The fact that that mom wasn't like focusing on the baby anymore, that really stressed the baby out. I'm really sorry that my little sheet of paper here isn't going all the way down the page. My font was just overall too big. I'm not sure because I'm on a tablet if I can fix that right now. So let's just talk about what else we learned. The second thing we learned is that what happens. So if that's constant, right? So if the baby is neglected all the time, right? Then the baby's brain doesn't develop, right? So if that is constant, then baby's brain doesn't form right. Okay? So then the baby's brain just, yeah, you saw those like neurons and those synapses, and all of a sudden they kind of died and shriveled away, and that's going to change the way the entire baby's brain is. And then we learned that last thing, and we'll go all the way over here. So if constant, right, the stress system of the body is also activated, right? And that's that what she called, and we're going to quote her. It was called that double whammy, right? That's what she said. I hope you can read those all right. I will try to go back in and fix this in the final copy of the PowerPoint. That way you can go back into the presentation right in this slide. The current slide that we're on, which is slide 6. And you can see those notes if for any reason you need to fill in any of these details that you can't read because of the way the font is working out. All right, so now we're going to go back in here. And what I want you to think about now is I'm kind of done helping you at this point because I think it's time for you to try this on your own. So we're going to go to the next slide, and here's what I want you to do. It's your turn. So I want you to use the video link in content, and I want you to continue taking notes where we left off. Remember, we were at 2 minutes and 24 seconds in the video. All right, so we're at the part where they say science points to 4 types of neglect, right? And so you can see that I've kind of given you the outline structure of this. So you're going to have 4 types of neglect, and there's a Roman numeral there. And if we had put Roman numerals in front of our other one, then we would have just numbered this accordingly. But we didn't, so you can just start with 1. 4 types of neglect, and then they listed 4. So we have A, B, C, and D underneath that. So occasional inattention, chronic understimulation, severe neglect in a family context, and severe neglect in an institutional setting. And you know that in the video, they kind of elaborate on each one and they define each one and show you what they are. So your notes, right, preserve the hierarchy. Your notes are indented underneath, right? So just to show you again, right, your notes go here and they're indented. So all of your notes, you're probably going to have a whole bunch, right? And then you'll move on to B and you'll indent and you'll have a whole bunch of notes, right? And so I want you to take notes where we left off. I actually left you off at the easiest part of the video so that you could take notes on this section that's very highly structured and see how you do. Can you define each one of these types of neglect? There's a couple comments you'll want to make about the end of the video because after they go through the institutional setting, they do go into intervention. So you might want to have that as your Roman numeral 2, interventions. And then they end the video. So that's it. So I want you to go ahead and finish your notes. But you're going to have to go into the video in content. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to exit out from where we are here, right? And I'm going to go into my home page, right? So I'm here and I'm going to be in our D2L home page, which is here. You're going to want to go to content. And then you can see the science of neglect is the first video. Now, once I finish this video and I add in some of the other links that I need or other assignment folders and things. There'll be more in here than there is right now, but you're looking for the video right here that says In Brief, The Science of Neglect. It's right now, it's the first one. It may not stay first, but that's the video you're looking for. So just go ahead, you're going to click on that. You're going to open the video, and remember, you're going to 2 minutes and 24 seconds. So hit play and then scoot yourself into 2 minutes and 24 seconds, which would be what, like,
Experience responsiveness most of the time.
we'll have to back up. We can keep backing up. There we go, about
one of the
there,
most potent
right? So I'm going to stop here, and you're going to see me kind of exiting out and getting back to my presentation. And go ahead and pause the video here so that you can go in to content in D2L, go to the video, get to 2 minutes and 24 seconds, and take notes on the rest of the video. All right, so pause your presentation. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about, hopefully you're back from taking notes on the rest of the video, and hopefully it went well. And I want to talk about the difference between an outline and Cornell Notes. So on the left side, you can see an outline, and you see that hierarchy I was talking about when we were taking notes earlier. And on the right, you see Cornell Notes. Now, the big difference between Cornell Notes and an outline is that we add the left column. There's 2 columns in Cornell Notes. And so your main notes are going to be in that right-hand side, and then you pull key ideas out into your left. And then at the bottom of the page, you write a summary of all the notes on that page. Now, that's generally how Cornell Notes work. The reason they're great is because it really has you thinking actively about the kinds of notes you're taking, and it also ends up being a great study tool because you can use another sheet of paper, cover the right column, and quiz yourself by using the ideas in the left column. So that's generally how Cornell Notes work. So the next thing I'm going to show you is something called sketchnoting. And here he's going to go over how, like traditional Cornell Notes, and then he's going to go over what's called sketchnoting. And it's a different way to look at Cornell Notes, especially for those really visual learners that learn through color and picture. So I want you to watch this video. I'm going to hit play right here, and I just want you to watch.
In this video, we're going to explore how to merge 2 different processes for taking notes, the Cornell method and sketchnoting. Let's get into it. Welcome to Verbal to Visual Video. I am your host, Doug Neal, and I'm excited to dive into this specific topic today because I get questions from students in high school or college, but also teachers about how to bring visual note-taking into the classroom. And I wanted to explore how we could start with a note-taking system that students might already be familiar with, the Cornell method, and add into the Cornell method more visual tools, more sketchnoting elements to make it an even more powerful combination. So if you are a student, my goal for you is that you can use this technique and take better notes during class. And if you're a teacher, I hope this gives you some ideas about how you as an instructor can help your students take better notes. Let's start with what standard Cornell notes look like. With this note-taking process, you divide the page into these 4 different sections. Up top, you have the space for the topic, your name, the date, those types of details. Then in the bigger section to the right, you take top to bottom in the moment notes. So So these are the notes that you're taking during a lecture or while you're watching a video or reading a textbook. Then, after the fact, you use the section on the left to pull out the key ideas that are contained within those in-the-moment notes. That's an opportunity for you to pull out the most important pieces and highlight them there on the left so that they're easier to reference in the future. Then, in the bottom section, you add a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the ideas contained on this single page. The power of this note-taking style is that when you go to review these notes, you know where to look to get the most important ideas. It'll mostly be that smaller section on the left and the summary on the bottom. That's what you'll study, and then if you need to dig into your in-the-moment notes to find more details, you can do that, but only when you have to. So that's the Cornell method, a specific process for taking notes that has a structure regarding layout, how you're going to organize ideas on the page, and even has some process elements in terms of what you're doing while the information is first coming in, and then things that you can do after the fact to reinforce the most important ideas that you just learned. It's not by default overly visual though, so let's see what happens when we build some sketchnoting elements into this Cornell method. Within that top section, you might consider adding a topical sketch, something related to the subject matter that you're about to take notes on. You might even add a calendar date to make that stand out a bit more. Then write a large title with then maybe your name and some other info below it. Adding just a few visuals there to that top portion of your notes, not only will that make for nice quick references when you're reviewing these notes later, it can also help get your brain and your hand warmed up to doing something more visual, which we'll continue doing throughout the rest of these notes. Within that section for in-the-moment notes, you have a lot of flexibility. If you'd like, you can start off primarily using just text for your notes. Then maybe consider using dividers to break up the page a little bit as you move from one idea to the next. And as you move down the page, feel free to build in other elements when appropriate, like maybe adding an image or a diagram in addition to some text, or capture some details using a bulleted list, and if you come across a hierarchy, you could use a numbered list. Since that section is where you are capturing your in-the-moment notes, you might not always have a ton of time to do anything that's real detailed in terms of imagery. But even just giving yourself the option to do a quick sketch or diagram when you're able, that adds a little bit more dynamics and flexibility to your in-the-moment notes. And I think even just having the option of doing something more visual in your mind, it triggers a different type of processing power so that you're more active in the way that you're responding to the ideas. You're not just passively taking in information and on a laptop typing it word for word. You are actively processing that information, getting down as much of it as you can in a way that makes sense to you in your words and in your images. Then within that section to the left, still pull out the key ideas of each of those sections of your notes, but consider adding icons for quick reference, like a star when you're capturing a key idea, or a little profile icon if you want to mention an important person. You could make these up as you go, but I think it's also worth spending some time developing your own custom set of icons. Icons that have a particular meaning to you that you can reuse. That way, when you're flipping back through these notes, it's easier to quickly find the particular piece of information that you're looking for. I think that this idea of creating your own custom set of icons works really well on the individual level if you're a student and you want to try that out. And I also think it could be a powerful thing for a teacher to do as a group within your classroom. Come up with a subject-specific set of icons that you and your students can reuse as you are working through a particular topic. I've heard from teachers that have done this, that when they develop a visual vocabulary specific to their subject matter, they'll often see in the margins of students' tests those same icons that help connect a particular idea that they're able to use and demonstrate within an actual exam environment. And that's pretty awesome. And if you have stories of something similar, please share them in a comment below. I'd love to hear about it. And finally, within the bottom section, still use that to summarize, but use a scene or diagram to do it. Try to connect the most important ideas, either with kind of a mind map like this, or try to imagine some sort of situation, a quick scene that you can draw that is representative of the most important ideas. Because when you make that summary section and the key ideas on the left, when you make that more visual, it just will be easier to review and easier for you to remember those ideas whenever you need to put them to use. This is of course not the only way to add in more visual elements into the Cornell method of note-taking, but I hope it gives you some ideas on how you might do it. And I encourage you to experiment and put these to the test yourself. Try out some of the ideas that I shared here, add in your own to find what process works best for your style. For example, you could add some color to this, which I didn't use at all, maybe with 2 different colors or 3 different colors of pens, or going back through after the fact with a highlighter. Let's take a look now at this merge note-taking style in action. Here are some notes that I took while reading the book How to Live Nowhere by Blake Bowles. I'm about to head out on a month-long road trip in a van that I'm turning into a mobile home / work art studio. So this topic of living a nomadic life to some degree is really interesting to me, which is why I decided to take notes on it. I ended up using an open book icon with either a Roman numeral or a number to distinguish between the different sections, chapters of this book. And as I was reading it, I had the luxury of being able to pause whenever I wanted to figure out which ideas I wanted to capture in the moment and how I wanted to capture them. So you'll see here quite a bit of text, some process diagrams, some lists, some mind maps, and a fairly heavy dependence on words, but trying to do something at least a little bit dynamic with those words. And you can see that I didn't fill the top section other on the first page, and that I haven't yet used the bottom section either. I do like the breathing room that provides on the page as I review them now, but I think I would like to go back through and use at least the bottom section to pull out the ideas that I most want to act on. I also like the idea of using a highlighter to go back through these notes and emphasize the ideas that were the newest to me. Some of these ideas I was already fairly familiar with, but there were definitely some nuggets of wisdom that I want to pull out, and particular frameworks for thinking about a nomadic lifestyle that really intrigue me. I hope that those specific examples give you a clearer picture of how you might add more visualness to your Cornell style notes. Good luck as you put these ideas into practice yourself. We'll see you next time.
Okay, I'm going to stop him there. Again, you can rewatch that video. The link is in content. All right, so let's talk now about what you have to do. So now it's your turn. I want you to take your outline notes that you and I created together. You know, we worked together on the first part and then you finished them on your own. And I want you to pick. You can either do traditional Cornell notes, take your outline, so preserve that hierarchy of information, show me that you understand those big ideas, the major ideas with those minor supporting ideas. And then I also want you to have the nice summary at the bottom, all good things. So pull out those key ideas in the left-hand column, traditional Cornell notes. Or you can try the sketchnoting. If you are a really visual person, I know I'm not artistic, but I am visual, and I felt like this video really didn't scare me from trying to do some drawing. So I think that I would definitely try the sketch notes. I encourage you, because you've probably seen Cornell notes before, that you should probably try the sketch notes. Again, maintain the hierarchy of the information. Still pull out key ideas, and I do want you to do the summary at the bottom of your page, but do it in those sketches and see if that helps. So it's your turn. You are going to actually choose, either do traditional Cornell notes or some sketch notes. And then the last part of this assignment is for you to write a small paragraph of reflection. So I want you to reflect on the process. What did you learn about taking notes from a video? What did you learn about taking notes in general? And really just how did all of this go? How did it make sense to you? What did you think of doing the sketch notes? Just kind of reflect on how it all went, and then reflect on the content. What did you learn about neglect? Why did I assign this video? And how does it connect to Harry Harlow and monkey love? Try to be as specific as you can. So when you're done writing that paragraph of reflection, let's talk about what to do next. It's time to let me see all of it. So you're going to submit the following. Please know that if you hand wrote this on paper, and I would think if you did sketch notes, you definitely sketched them on paper. So you'll just take pictures of all of your work. Please make sure that your phone captures an entire picture of your document, and then you'll upload those pictures. Those will be the files you submit to the assignment folder. If you typed some things and sketched other things, well, then you'll have a combination of like Word and Google files as well as pictures. So just turn in whatever files that you have, but here's what you should turn in. You should have a answer to the reflection after we watched the video for the first time. I asked you to pause and reflect. You should have that. Please clearly mark it so that I can see all of these sections. Next, you should have the outline notes that I guided you through. Then you should have the outline notes that you did yourself on the 4 types of neglect as well as the end of the video. And then you are asked to take your outline notes and either do Cornell notes or sketch notes. I should see those. And then this final reflection that was on this slide. You should have all of those sections. Again, label them clearly so that I can see them. Again, upload your files and whatever, whether they're pictures or Word and Google Doc files, however you chose to do it, and submit it in the assignment folder that is linked in content in this note-taking subfolder, and you're all done. Congratulations.